what's up? It's Steve Di Giorgio here, bassist of Testament, and you are watching Impact Channel.
Greetings everyone, our guest today is Steve Di Giorgio from Testament. Hey, good to see you again.
Hey, good to see you, bud.
How are you enjoying the European tour with Anthrax and Creator?
Yeah, it's been a good tour. Big shows, good turnout. Metal's very strong over here. Bands and crew get along well, and yeah, even touring in this type of weather, it's a little different for us coming from the west part of the United States, but everything's been going great. I mean, really cool tour. We just got off a U.S. tour with Creator and came straight here, and so get to really know those guys, you know, getting to know each other.
The last Testament album came out in 2020. Are you working on the new one now?
It's pretty close to being done. There's still some things here and there to finish. So there's some, you know, some bits to record still, but it's pretty easy to say the majority of the album is done. So it feels like an album now, you know, but we keep throwing tours in the middle of the recording process, so we just put it on hold and go play for 2 months and come back and turn on the system and work on it some more. So it'll take a while, but yeah, I think we'll be mixing in the early part of the year, which means probably release probably middle of the year. That's a normal.
Where do you plan to mix and master the album? Who's going to be the producer for that?
You know, this is honest, I don't know. I really don't know. I know for sure that Andy Sneap's not doing it, which will be the first one since Demonic that he hasn't worked on with Testament. He's done all the, from 99 all the way until the one you said, 2020, that was all Andy. So I don't know. I've heard some names being thrown around, but I don't know who's available or who. I mean, we'll see.
And how would you describe the upcoming album?
It's pretty evil. Like the last album has some cool, catchy songs mixed in with some fast stuff, and it's one of my particularly favorite Testament records, the way it came out, Titans. So when if I say anything, you know, it's supposedly in a good way, catchy, not a turn off. But this new one, I would definitely say it is much more evil. And evil sounding. Having the new kid on drums is really, you know, pick things up. And Chuck singing just as good as ever, you know. For being 62 now, you know, he still sounds like Chuck. And we have this, you know, they've been talking about it even before we wrote the song. It's a ballad type song, but it's a Testament ballad, so it's not like, you know, there's acoustic guitar in it, but then there's still elements of kind of heavy, slow. But having Floor Jansen sing on it from you know, the Nightwish singer, yeah, she's gonna do a little guest spot in the song, and so there's a pretty big variety considering there's a ballad combined with some pretty fast evil shit too. So I guess just to keep it simple, it's another Testament record, you know, like the Testament variety is there in all forms again. But you know, this early it's also hard to tell until it's done and we can sit back and listen to it. Especially me, I'm like the worst, you know, I'm the worst guesser of how something's gonna be. You know, sometimes I think it's silly and it's like everybody gets behind it, or sometimes I'm like really excited about it and kind of, you know, no big reaction. So I don't know what that means, but I'll just wait and see. But I know that playing it in the studio was intense. It wasn't easy to play, so I think that's why I feel it's evil, because it was like, it was some difficult, fast passages and stuff. We'll see.
Looking forward to hear the album.
Yeah.
The last time we had a conversation was when you were on tour with Death to All. Do you have any plans with the band in the near future?
In the near future, not really, no. We had a pretty busy year before. During this year, we did 2 tours in this year, which is rare for Death to All, because we're usually like one tour in a year at the best. So we went to South America and played a lot of cities down there, and then we did a big U.S. and Canada tour with Cryptopsy. It went great. We were doing back-to-back. Every time we got to a city, we'd play 2 nights. The first night was the first album plus songs, and the second night was the last album plus songs around that. And it was pretty big. It was a big task that we took on to make that happen, and it showed in the turnout. A lot of people came out, especially the second night. I guess they like the later death stuff a little better, the more technical stuff, I guess. So it was really good, and we felt like we had a good year. So there's nothing coming up right away. I heard talks about the end of 25. We're probably going to do the States and Canada again. Trying to get to Europe, but you know, Testament's busy, and Gene's in 5 bands, and the 2 guitar players, they both teach. They're guitar teachers in different levels and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It's a different kind of band because we just tour when the offer is there. We don't have a new album that we need to support, so we just, sometimes it's better to kind of wait a while and, you know, make it seem a little more fresh when we go back out. Yeah, 'cause you could wear it out eventually. I mean, it's the same 7 albums over and over.
Have you thought about writing songs together?
People have said that, and we've toyed with the idea, and you know, I don't know. I mean, the level of talent of that band is massive, so something pretty good would obviously come out of it, but I don't know if we have the time to create something new together because everybody does their own full-time thing, and to compose stuff it would have to turn into a full-time project, and the time-wise, I don't see it happening. I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious to see what it would be like.
I see. The last time we finished the conversation in the middle of the conversation about Scandinavia, paganism, so I would like to pick it up from here. Which have been the most special places for you when you visited Scandinavia?
Scandinavia. Well, just this year, in the summer, the artist rep from my amplifier company, from EBS, the company that makes my bass amplifiers, the artist rep, Ralph, and his son took me and Eric to some burial mounds and to see some real runestones. And this was around, this was in Uppsala, which is a pretty important center for the history of that stuff. And that was pretty special. Also we had a couple days off in Oslo at the end of the tour before Midgardsblot, and you know, you could visit all the heritage sites there in Norway. I went to the Cultural Museum again. I went a long time ago, so I went back and enjoyed that stuff. And then they have a Viking Center downtown that's open. I think it's kind of taking the place of the Viking Ship Museum while they're rebuilding it. So you know, all the historic stuff that's kept there in the city is pretty nice. But the trip to Uppsala was cool because that was like just out in the you know, wide open space, and to see the real rune stones, because that's where my interest is kind of funneled down to, is the runes, the writing system, and the stories, and you know, the stories behind the runes, and to see the real stones that were carved in those years, you know, and they always stand them up like signs too. So there's these big, heavy slabs. They stand them up. So I got to see them, and you know, you kind of touch them and just feel part of history, like someone made this for people in the future to see, you know. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I try to get out and. You know, most of the time I'm traveling, it's when I get to go see this stuff, it's in between work. Like that day we went to the burial mounds, it was before sound check. So I don't have like you know, a week of vacation to go and really spend too much time doing this. Otherwise, I'd go on a pretty big tour, you know, of my own, or you know, visit all these spots. And well, we'll see. Maybe one day.
I see you're viewing your Mjolnir again.
Yeah.
Is there any special symbol that represents you, or something that's really meaningful for you?
Yeah, the bind rune I put in in the middle's been, I've kind of made it my own little symbol. It's even evolved. I have a new one. There's a foundry in Ukraine that I found years and years ago. A guy who makes these, and he's got a new one coming, and I kind of updated my little binary symbol. Just yeah, it just has my own little meaning. There's nothing too deep or mystic about it, but it's something to identify with. It's cool. It's just like a little personal symbol, almost like initials, you know. Yeah.
Like your own sigil?
I think it's something like that. Sure.
If you could choose a Viking name for yourself, what would it be?
A Viking name? What are Viking names? Like Olaf and Sven, and Bjorn and stuff like that?
Yeah. Or even something like, I don't know, Ironside or something.
Oh, I get it. Probably there was a, I don't know which, if it was an Eric or a Sven or something, but there was a Forkbeard. I guess I would have to be some kind of some kind of Forkbeard guy, I guess, because I don't know, I can't get it to stay together. It just wants to grow in two pieces.
Are you also interested in other pagan cultures?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've been reading a lot more about Greek, ancient Hellenic. It was very interesting. You know, when you're young, I mean, I guess it depends on where you grow up, but when I was young, you know, you're fed this big blast of the pantheon, you know, Zeus and Apollo,
yeah, right.
and Athena and all this, and they're all on Mount Olympus, and you know, and you're like, okay, cool, I get it. But then when you read about it and how it was a little closer to a philosophic, like a guide for those people, it was the gods represented someone who leads by example. So there's a lot of little lessons buried in the myth, you know, like, oh, we know Zeus fucked everybody and made a bunch of half gods like Hercules, you know, and stuff like this. But there's also a little more interesting stuff once you really get in and you know, and find out, you know, what they've uncovered about this stuff. So the Hellenic stuff has been my latest interest. Of course, I've, you know, picked up little bits of info on everything from, you know, the Roman pantheon and Egyptian a little bit. I guess I have a lot to really uncover about that because that's pretty involved, but I really got into the Osiris stuff, like, and how once the hardcore Egyptian culture was getting kind of diluted and blended with the rest of the Mediterranean, there was a faction that went off and created this cult of Isis, you know, the wife of Osiris, and this whole Isis thing just lived on, and not the modern Isis, but the name of the goddess. You know, stuff like that's cool because it's a little off the main path of, you know, just the general stories are cool, but then when you get in and read about that, it's like, wow, this really meant a lot to them, and it's just interesting, you know, because they all come from different points of view, and it's just left for people to interpret. We really don't know exactly what they were doing with it. You know, the Christians did a pretty good job of erasing a lot of stuff, so we only have what's left to study, and you know, the poor Aztec, you know, and the Mayan, I mean, their stuff. We probably have 10% of what could be, you know, but what are you gonna do? You know, just so yeah. There's a lot of resource out there for people's interpretations and studies and stuff, and I guess it's interesting to me. It's more of like kind of like from the point of view of just the connection of the people that lived a long time ago, because I'm sure everybody pictures the past differently and they picture ancient life differently. For me, I picture it just like us, but with different stuff. You know, like, in other words, people are always the same. They just lived in a different time, and they had different ways of, you know, different roads and houses and ways of hunting and all this stuff. But other than that, I think the logic in the human brain has kind of always been the same. Like, everybody's like, oh my God, how did they built these mighty pyramids. And it's like, they were people. They're smart. They figured it out. I don't know how, but I know I trust those people to be smart to do that, you know. Because after the pyramids, there wasn't a tall structure built all the way up until the Eiffel Tower. So, yeah, they're pretty smart. They figured it out. But that's why I guess I'm interested, because I kind of overlap our current time to, like, what would it be like, you know, living under what the lifestyle that they had and their way of finding their way through life and stuff. So I think it's kind of interesting that way, and from the people perspective. Yeah.
You said that you're interested in other cultures and religions. Who are your favorite gods from these other religions?
Well, right now Zeus is fucking awesome. Like I said, I've been really getting in, reading about it. I'm like, whoa. He's really the king of, you know, Poseidon and Prometheus and all these guys, you know, and a lot of them aren't happy with him. So he's, you know, he rules a hard way. You know, he's like, Odin is like the soft-spoken tactician. You know, he likes, you know, he brought the writing style, and so he's into writing and poetry and spells, and he travels, and he's kind of mellow and stuff. Zeus is like hardcore, because his own family is trying to fuck him up, and he knows it. So he's got to always keep his eyes open and still do his job and everything. And then of course he takes it out on the people a little bit, and but then he also has a reward system and stuff. I don't know. It's a complex guy, but for now Zeus is pretty badass.
What do you think? What can we learn from our pagan ancestors?
Our pagan ancestors. Well, what can we learn from them? I guess there's been a kind of a reawakening, or at least a re-interest in what was before the big conversion. We all know that the Christians and this movement forced conversion, and we know that they made people suffer, that, you know, made it go against their will to do this. But the higher reason was the conversion was spreading regardless, and if these pagan communities and kingdoms wanted to do business with the trade and, you know, who knows, food and everything, they had to convert, or the Christian nations didn't want anything to do with them. So the kings were like, look, we have to do this and become part. It's like joining the European Union almost, you know. And I guess it worked for a while, because a lot of the Christian conversion started with the Roman. Once the Romans converted, that kind of helped it spread, and, you know, hand in hand with the Roman expansion came a lot of modernization. You know, they did the aqueducts, the roads, you know, brought a lot of civilization to these so-called tribes, you know, which, by the way, I don't think they crawled around the dirt painting their faces, eating mushrooms from the trees. I think, like I said, sometimes these people are a lot smarter than we give credit to. They're a lot like us. So their villages, sure, it's a village, there's no harm in that, but I think they had a pretty good system. But they were converted into this big network that was coming. You know, like I said, the roads and good things came out of it, like sewage, you know. Put the stuff down the pipe instead of right on the ground. But so it was embraced, obviously, because of a lot of these things were improving life and stuff. So I guess people kind of went with it. But, you know, they lost a lot of their own culture and their own traditions. And I think it could have been, I think they could have had the best of both worlds. I think they could have, you know, maybe like Iceland is kind of a rough example in how this works, where they joined the modern world. They did what they needed to keep up in the community, but then they kept their own style, and they kept it low key to themselves. And what could we learn from it, pagan? Just, I don't know, just not being such a pushover. Maybe you could have fought a little harder for some things, but you know, everything done in the name of religion can be very brutal and forceful. So, look, you know, we're kind of lucky to live in this time where there's a lot more freedom of belief, I guess is the word. So easy for us to sit here and say, you know, we didn't have a giant battle axe at our neck saying, do you or don't you? Well, so I don't know. I wish they stood up for it a little harder, at least to integrate it instead of make it go away. You know, because it's just a different lifestyle. It's not better or worse. It's just different. That's how I see it. It'd be cool to understand it better.
Would you go for a time travel if you had the chance?
Yeah, I thought about that a lot. Obviously, if you travel too far away in time, nobody's going to understand you because, you know, languages evolve pretty quickly. So I guess you'd have to disguise yourself as a mute or something. Otherwise, you try talking to someone, they're going to know you're a foreigner, and sometimes maybe foreigners aren't dealt with so nicely. So I don't know how it would be, how the whole rules would be set up for time travel, but I would love, obviously, like we've been talking about, I'd like to go back and see how it is and see what we're missing and what we don't understand. But it'd also be cool to take a peek at the future and see if it's really as fucked up as we think, where it's going. I don't know. Yeah, time travel would be awesome.
If you could summon a historical person for a chat, who would it be and why?
Well, a couple of my favorite people, you don't have to go too far, but only about 100 years ago, there was a president of the United States named Theodore Roosevelt. And I read a couple biographies of his, including his autobiography written by him. And that's a really cool person. He had a pretty good, vast vision of everything. He wasn't one-sided. You know, he was known as this kind of loosey-goosey president that kind of embraced war, but he also created the first national park systems in the country, and he lived in a cowboy ranch for a couple years, and he loved the wilderness. But then he was like a rich boy from, you know, rich family, college, you know, kind of the upper crust of life where, you know, a lot of these people don't get their hands dirty, and this guy was, you know, studying birds and he learned to box, and just all the stuff he did is really cool. And he turned out to be a really good leader. I mean, he's got his face carved on the side of a mountain with a couple of the other good leaders. I know pisses off the Indians, but he earned his place up there, have his face put in a mountain. So, you know, someone with this kind of vast of knowledge and interest that leads the country, I think could really help out, you know, because boy, everyone knows as far as that goes, lately our leaders have been nothing but destructive. So it'd be cool to sit down and talk to him about stuff. He really knew how to get his point across, this guy. When he had a good idea, he made sure everybody understood what it was. It's really uncanny too, because he was president right at the top of the century, like 1900. And I don't know Hitler's exact birthday or anything, but the time period of Roosevelt doing public speeches was 30 years before Hitler, something like this. So I don't even know if Hitler was born, but there's such a similar style in the way you watch these old films, these old black and white clips of these guys speaking. And I don't care about ideology. I mean, I don't care to talk about opinions of Nazism, but I'm just talking about the person and the way he delivered his message, and that you know, the way they just speaking and they're telling you something, and when you're done, everybody just throws their hat in there and like, fuck yeah, you know, it's a power, you know, to be able to persuade so many people to go along with you and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. And it's something far from what I'll ever have. So that type of stuff interests me, and I'd love to sit down and talk to him, and you know. Who knows?
And for a mythical creature for a chat?
A mythical creature? Oh boy. Mythical creature. I don't know. Like to do what? Like a creature that talks?
Or even just to observe it?
Observe it? I don't know. That's crazy. A mythical creature. Huh. You know the what you got? Oh, Fenrir. I don't know. I haven't heard anything really good about him.
You don't want to pet him?
Yeah, he's known to be smart and strong because they had to trick him.
Mm-hmm.
They tricked him to tie him up. That's why old Mr. Tyr lost his hand, I guess, as the story goes.
Mm.
No, I guess okay. If we're gonna talk about just a fun mythical creature to see, observe it or talk to it, or you know how like Aladdin's got the lamp and the genie comes out.
Yeah.
I'd love to meet one of these genies. You know, I don't care about having wishes. I just like to see how that happens. Like he just came out of this fucking old lamp, you know, and like, what are you doing there?
Would you free it?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, is there? I don't know. How does it work? When you free it, you get your wishes, right?
I only know the Walt Disney version, so I'm not sure about.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know. I don't know if there's because a lot of times they like to trick you because they always say you can't wish for more wishes, and people get so stuck on what to wish for that they end up blowing them or something. I don't know how it goes, but then there's a price for letting the genie out. Like he gets to go do something because he was trapped, I guess. So I don't know. I don't know much about it, but yeah, for a mythical creature, man, that would be pretty weird to see a powerful being come out of a fucking little jar.
The Scandinavian countries supply probably the best metal music in Europe at the moment. Are you following the scene? What do you think about Scandinavian black metal, for example?
I've never been like a huge black metal fan. That's not to say I don't like it or anything. I don't have a big knowledge of it, you know. What I know of especially the Norwegian black metal is I get to know some of the guys and they're just more like friends to me. Instead of knowing their music, I know the people a little more. So I don't know.
Like Enslaved, for example, you know them, I guess?
I've met, okay, I don't know them so much. I met Ivar briefly, said hi to him or something. But no, I can't say I know them particularly. I don't know. Regionally, it's hard for me to say I'm into any particular style. I guess I just kind of go with just the sound, and black metal, wherever it comes from, has never been my forte. There's a pretty good assortment of bands from Sweden that I like, and it doesn't have anything to do with them being from Sweden, but it just, I put together, everybody in Testament put together a Spotify playlist a few years ago, and somebody had commented, you know, when they put it out and they were talking about who picks what songs, and somebody said, oh, Steve has 2 or 3 bands from Sweden, and I was like, oh, really? When I started looking at it, I had like about 6 or 7, but it was just a coincidence, you know, so maybe I'm more of a Swedish guy than a Norwegian black metal guy. I don't know. It's just how it turned out. But yeah, I don't know. Scandinavian, I don't know. I participated in some Scandinavian bands in my time, so I guess I'm a little partial to some of that. Vintersorg and Soen and this kind of stuff. So it's a nice place to record. There's a lot of fresh air up there.
What are your plans for next year?
Oh boy, still a lot of touring. We're listening to all the new dates roll in now as we close out this year, so still going to be busy playing shows everywhere. We're going back to Australia. And we haven't been in 11 or 12 years, so it'll be nice to go back down there. I really like Australia. It's a very nice place. Yeah, obviously the New Testament album will be released, so everything that comes with that it just brings a lot of activity and buzz. So we'll be doing that. I'm also pretty excited about the release of a project I'm doing with Jeroen Tesling. You know, the bass player who played with Obscura, Pestilence, Jeroen. Yeah, we did an album. We had a dream like over 10 years ago, like 2 bass players making music together, and it sat around as a germinating seed for so long because even though we had this idea to do music with this. We didn't know how for a long time. And we found a couple good support musicians. Well, they supported our idea, but they're amazing musicians. The drummer, Yuma, also from here, Netherlands, and a guitar player we found. Actually, just found him on the internet, on Instagram or something. And he really helped us out, compose the majority of the stuff. We had folders of old ideas, and so there's a little bit of contribution there, but I mean, we found a gold mine with this guy. He kicked out a lot of music for us, and it's awesome. I guess we'll qualify it as instrumental metal, progressive metal fusion. It's instrumental, and it's very technical, very technical. That was our point. We wanted to write something really difficult, and we did. I don't know if it was the best choice, because now that we're thinking about doing videos and maybe playing it, it's like, oh God, how do you remember this stuff? But the sound turned out amazing, and we actually did make 2 fretless basses work together. It's really cool how that turned out. And so we're pretty proud that we got our little seed to grow and become an album. And the project is called Quadvium. Quadvium, and it's coming out on Agonia Records March or April, I think they said. They want to do some pretty extensive promotion, because pretty hard to sell a niche thing like this instrumental, crazy mathematics stuff. But yeah, I think it'll appeal to a certain particular vein of this type of, shred and instrumental craziness. So we're excited for that. The music's completely done, mixed, mastered. The cover just finished, so it's pretty much out of our hands now. The label's putting it together, and like I said, we're going to do a lot of promotion and probably try to make some videos to go with it. So anything having to do with getting this album out and known, that's pretty high on the list for next year too.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck for next year, and thank you for the interview.
Yeah, good to chat with you again. Always a pleasure, man.
My pleasure too.
All right, thanks.